am Sue Webley. Welcome to another episode of Inspire. Welcome to another episode of Inspire. I'm so glad to see you here. I see you coming in. I'm excited about today's show for specific reasons that I will get into in a little bit. But I see you coming in. Do me a favor as you're coming in. Share this out. We are celebrating women all month, women who are making a difference. Let me throw this up all month long for Women's Her Story Month. And so we're talking to amazing women in the areas of reproductive justice, sustainability, youth advocacy, community development, empowerment for women and girls, and more. We are celebrating women making a difference. And so we want to make sure that you join us each and every Saturday, beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you just stumbled upon this broadcast and you don't know what it's about or who I am Sue A. Webley. I am your host. I am many things, but I'm also the founder of Cara Solutions, LLC, which is a full digital service agency that helps individuals and organizations navigate the virtual space with confidence. Inspire, the show that you are watching right now, is a live interview style broadcast that is on a mission to encourage, empower, and embolden individuals to create change in their personal lives, in their communities, and in the world. And so as our guests, our entrepreneurs, influencers, creatives, and others share their testimonies, tips, and tools with us, we hope that you are inspired to elevate your mindset, to pursue your dreams, and to do, as the late Dr. Katie Geneva Cannon put it so eloquently, the work that your soul must have. Right now, we are live, y'all, on Facebook. We're live on LinkedIn. We are live on Instagram. We are live on YouTube. And so if you're joining us from any of those spaces, hey, y'all, hey, thank you for joining us. I want to make sure that you are also following us. Oh, where's my slide? Oh my goodness, Lee. I'm so glad that we are all friends here because my slide has disappeared. We're to tell you where we are. So listen, head on over to Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. We are Cara Solutions LLC on all of those platforms. We are also at Inspired by Cara on Facebook and on Instagram. So please follow us there. If you want to listen later, we're on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And we're Inspired with Sue and all of those platforms. So you know how I do. If you've been coming for any amount of time, you know what the deal is. You know the question I'm getting ready to ask: what is in your cup? What are you sipping on? So y'all know that I'm sipping on some coffee in my cup. And I need to remind myself today that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So that is what's on my cup, and there's coffee in my cup. So where are you watching from, and what are you sipping on as I take a sip? Hey, Nikita. Hey, Danny. Hey, Rainier. Oh, my goodness. Listen, Rainier, my wonderful sibling, recently got married. So congratulations. Mrs. Shannon. Mrs. Shannon, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to you and Kima, and I love you both so much. My siblings, the Shannons, they're officially the Shannons. Quita is drinking alkaline water. Reed, what are you drinking? Let me know. And watching from the crib. Okay. Hey, Danny, you are drinking black cherry sparkling water. I will take a sip. I'm talking so much. Pause. All right. So Danny's in Delaware, watching from Delaware. And Ree has mushroom coffee. Listen, I knew you would have mushroom coffee. I have been hooked on this mushroom coffee, y'all. And I showed the package real quick because listen, they are not paying me to advertise. Speaking of advertisement, if you are a woman-owned business, if you have a product or a service, whatever you do, I want to promote you for the month of March for free, okay, in honor of Women History Month. So if you have a product or service, whatever your business is, if you're woman-owned, I want to promote you for free. Listen, if you have a shirt, I'm going to wear it. And I wish, oh my God, I should have worn my shirt today, the Reverend Dr. Shaq. I should have worn that shirt today to promote Imago Day. But listen, if you got a shirt, a hoodie, or whatever, I will wear it on the air. If you have a cup, a mug, or whatever, I will drink out of it on the air. If you have a service, I will promote it throughout the month of March in honor of Women's History Month. So I tap a little protein powder. Okay, you put a little protein powder in there. I see y'all coming in. Shout out to those of you who are watching Instagram. I'm waving. Well, y'all see me waving the Instagram over here. I'm watching you come in. Do me a favor, if you're on Instagram, share some more. We're gonna get right into our show today. Listen, this conversation I'm about to have today is really near and dear to me. The executive director of Covenant House, I'm just so grateful that she carved out some time for us today. Covenant House itself, Covenant House New York, is near and dear to me because when I was homeless, that is where I stayed. I stayed at Covenant House, New York, and even though it was much different back then, hey, Minister Priscilla, I'm so grateful that Covenant House existed. I'm grateful that I had a place to go to. I was a walk-in, and didn't have anywhere else to go, and they protected me, right? They kept me safe. And I was there for a little bit, and I'm so grateful for Covenant House, New York. So this conversation today is uber important to me. Danny, let's see. Minister Sandy, I see you coming in from California. Listen to me. If you are joining me from Cali, I know you love Inspire, and I know you love me because it's early. It's 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven out there in Cali. Thank you, Minister Sandy Hudson, for joining. Minister Priscilla is drinking Cafe Bustelo. Let me tell you something about some Cafe Bustelo. It will keep you up. Not the instant. The instant one is a little weaker. But if you ground the beans, child, if you get the ones that you have to percolate, you will be up all day. Cafe Bustelo, okay? Listen, do me a favor again and share. We're going to get into our introduction. Reverend Dr. Shakeema North-Albert is the executive director of Covenant House, New York. And let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a servant leader with a passion for youth and community development who has committed her life's work to empowering young people to reach their fullest potential, despite the challenges many of them face. She's near and dear to my heart because you know how I feel about young people, okay? She has an exceptional ability to develop holistic and inclusive youth development initiatives that are strength-based, trauma-informed, healing-centered, and geared toward serving marginalized youth in search of hope and healing. Shakeema is skilled at designing strategic programs, preparing thought-provoking workshops and seminars, facilitating community-based campaigns, and improving overall organizational productivity. Prior to joining Covenant House, New York. In 2015, Shakeema worked for over 10 years as a marketing and production professional with HBO. She earned a Bachelor of Science degree in computer science from North Carolina A&T State University. Shout out North Carolina A&T. My brother went there. And her Master of Divinity degree from New York Theological Seminary. Shout out to New York Theological Seminary and NYTS. She's a 2017 Faith and Justice Fellow at the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies and a 2014 Fellow of the Black Theology and Leadership Institute and Princeton Theological Seminary. In May 2020, Shakeema received Doctor of Ministry degree in Leadership in the Christian Tradition at Duke Divinity School. A little bit about Covenant House. For over 50 years, Covenant House New York has been a leader in providing residential services to vulnerable, homeless, runaway, and exploited youth. As the largest provider of runaway and homeless youth services in New York City, CHNY serves over 1,600 young adult ages 16 to 24 annually with an operating budget of over $30 million. Their doors are open to all young people who need help, regardless of their race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. They facilitate their services using trauma-informed principles to help homeless youth leave the streets and achieve independence. They also advocate for systemic change through public policy while promoting awareness of critical issues related to youth homelessness. Their mission is to help each young person find safety and refuge from the dangers of living on the streets, and they do it through compassion, unconditional love, and absolute respect. As we prepare to meet our guests today, let's take a look at their recent sleep out.
We've been sleeping out for 12 years, but this is our very first sleep out in Times Square. Thank you for giving up your bed tonight so that our young people can sleep safely at Covenant House.
And what you're doing tonight matters. And I'm so thankful to each of you for being here, for sleeping out tonight in 17 cities. We have people sleeping in Alaska after they just got 40 inches of snow. We have people sleeping out in Guatemala City in the middle of incredible political unrest. And we have people sleeping out in Times Square, where we were founded over 50 years ago.
When we have these partnerships with the Covenant House, it allows me to really dig into my core. Because if we're not trying to figure out a way to uplift humanity, I don't know what we're doing in this world.
When young people have a safe place to sleep and relentless support, there is nothing that they can't accomplish.
And Covenant House is going to be the catalyst for ending youth homelessness. We're not going to be able to do it alone. But you, the hundreds of people that are in your circles watching you tonight, adds up to millions of people that are hearing about this issue. And that's how we're going to change policies, that's how we're going to change laws, and that's how we're going to end youth homelessness.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Good
Dr.
morning.
Shack. Can I call you Dr. Shack today?
You can.
How are you, my dear sister?
I am well. How are you doing?
I am well. Thank you for carving out some time to hang out with us today. I know you are mega busy.
Busy is not even a word for it, but I'm glad to be here this morning and just grateful for the invitation to spend some time hanging out with you. Yeah, on a Saturday morning.
On a Saturday morning, because it's been too long. We were talking.
It's been too long.
Yeah, we were talking before we went live. Dr. Shack and I were talking, and the last time we saw each other in person was before I moved to Chicago.
Yeah,
which was 3 years ago.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
3 years ago. So it's good to be in your presence this morning. So what are you sipping on before we get into our discussion? What
am I sipping on? I was backstage and I heard somebody drinking the same thing I'm drinking. So I have some of the mushroom coffee, that Rise mushroom coffee. And I also heard you say you was going to show the package, but you decided not to. So I won't be showing the package, right? for the same reasons that you already cited. But yes, I've been meaning to get it and went ahead and ordered it and started drinking it earlier this week. And it's, it's pretty good. I had to figure out the consistency of the water to the powder.
Yeah.
And, you got to have a little hazelnut creamer in it. You can't do much without the hazelnut creamer. So I had that in my coffee this morning. Yep. So that is what I'm sipping on.
Now I haven't had the Rise one. The one that Renier and I drink is I think it's 5 mushroom. It has 5 mushrooms in there. And
is it does it have the orange package? Is it the one that they have at Whole Foods?
No, well, I got it off of Amazon, so
okay.
It has like a tiger on it. But it is really good, and
that's good.
Yeah, and that powder to water ratio is really important.
Yes. Yes.
You're a little strong. It
is a little watery, if you don't get it
right. But it is good. I see people. Hey, the Men Perspective. I see you hanging out on Instagram, and then Truth Still is also on. I see Truth Still on YouTube. Reverend Randy.
So fun fact. That is my husband. That is the Men's Perspective.
You guys support your wife.
Fun facts for this morning.
Well, it's so good. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Reports. Hey, Tasha Michelle. It's so good to see you, sis.
Tasha.
Support you.
Tasha does some amazing work with BIV at the Cove.
Yes. Yes. Oh, Renee said they sold out of that coffee. She had to switch, but they are all good. But yeah, the consistency matters. So let's get into our discussion today. So tell us a little bit about your journey with Covenant House, because you didn't start off as executive director. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey, and then talk about your current role as the executive director?
So my journey at Covenant House started in April of 2014, so almost 10 years ago. And prior, so I'll take us back a little bit from my actual starting there. So prior to being at Covenant House, I was doing 2 things, right? So I was working in the corporate space. So I was a production manager at HBO. At that point, had been there for about 10 years, doing production development work on the IT side of things. And then I was also serving on staff at the Concord Baptist Church of Christ with Pastor Gary Simpson and the team there as the pastor to families with children. And so most folks say those are two separate things, right, on opposite ends of the spectrum. And the reason for that is twofold. So one, I loved computers, I loved engineering. And so when it was time for me to come out of high school and go into college, naturally I wanted to major in something that I love doing, but also a field that I could make money in, right? And so that was a big thing back then. And also it was a big thing for me because, I don't come from a rich family. And I knew that whatever it was I was going to be doing, I didn't have the privilege, right, or the luxury at that time to be able to choose a career path that I was passionate about or just wanted to get my feet wet in, right? Because I have, the resource, right, to be able to do that. So I had to pick something where I knew I was going to make some money coming out of school. And it just so happened to be something that I loved doing, right? After I graduated, and I grew up in a church, been in the church all of my life, but after I graduated college, I felt myself being called to ministry. And at that time, I was at Elmwood United Presbyterian Church here in East Orange, New Jersey. Shout out to Maria Crompton, who is the pastor there now. I started working with young people there. I was ordained elder there and doing some youth ministry work there, but I felt a strong call to ministry. And so I had the same conflict that I think many people have when you feel your call to ministry later down your path, right? It's like, first of all, is this for real? Second of all, why Lord and why now and why me, right? Because I got this good thing over here, and this work going on.
Yes.
And so what is this all about? And so then I took the step that wasn't a full leap at that point. I went to NYTS. I took the certificate program at first, and then the call kept getting stronger and stronger. So I went to seminary, but I still kept working in corporate America, right, at the same time, because I was a little afraid. I didn't know what that looked like. But fast forward, the urge to really do, and you mentioned Dr. Cannon, do the thing that that my soul must have, that grew stronger and stronger and stronger, and it didn't stop. And so around 2014, I started to really discern what it looked like for me to move from corporate into nonprofit, not even nonprofit, into a space that would allow me to live out my call in a full way, right? Whether that be in a parish setting or in a church adjacent setting, which I consider Covenant House, New York to be. And so I went through that process of discernment. At that time, I also was talking to a number of people around what does it look like to really make a transition from a nonprofit to a for-profit to a non-for-profit setting. Just trying to seek some advice. And so one of the people that I was connected with was the ED at Covenant House, New York at the time. And so we were just having conversation. And then in conversation, there was the realization that there was some alignment with the work that I was doing in the church with youth ministry, and the work that they needed to have happening in the space at Covenant House, which is which we call youth development, right? But it is the same work, right? So in the church space, we call it youth ministry. In our space, we call it youth development. There was also at that time a push from the city for runaway and homeless youth shelters and youth servicing agencies to focus on youth development, because it is good, right, to provide a bed, right, and food and clothing to young people who are experiencing homelessness, right?
Yes.
But if we want to get to the point where we're ending this and we're giving young people the tools that they need to survive, we have to give them the tools, right? And that's what life skills training and development comes in. And so we started having some conversation around what that looks like if for me to do that at Covenant House. And then we were in conversation for maybe about a year. And then the time came where, I was offered the, invitation to apply for the youth development director, because they were creating a youth development department at that time. And so I applied and got the role and came in and started to do that work, right? Build out the youth development program at Covenant House, New York. And what that looked like was, taking some of the tools that I learned in the youth ministry space that had worked over. At that point, I was doing youth ministry work. I started in 2003. And so that was 2014. So I had been doing youth ministry work for a long time and working to develop workshops and programs and things that were transferable to this space. And then also what was the great thing about and what was the thing that made Covenant House the best choice for me is because it is a church adjacent space, and also I can live out my pastoral identity in that space and not be disjointed as a person. And so that was, excuse my annoying, obnoxious pet that's to the right of me barking right now, but that was super important to me because that is who I am, right? And so I needed to be in a space that would allow me to live out fully who I was. And so I spent a lot of time developing the youth development department that grew from 2 people. It was me and one other person. I remember, like me and one other person. And I remember one day we had this grand old idea that we were going to post inspiring messages all over the building, right? So that when youth woke up one morning, they would wake up to inspiration. Mind you, it was the 2 of us. And we had 6 residential floors, 6 or 7 residential floors at that time. And our goal was to input. So inspiring quotes all over the building, all on the residential floors, all on all the other floors, so that when youth woke up, they saw inspirational quotes. Anywhere they went, they were met with inspiration. 2 of us. We got to the site, I want to say at 3:00 in the morning, printed out all of these quotes that we found online. It took us weeks, right, to get all these quotes online and posted all over the building so that young people can wake up to something different that next day, right? To a word of inspiration that day. And that has been like my grounding focus for doing this work, right? And so we talk about unconditional love. We talk about absolute respect. We talk about relentless engagement and what that looks like. Relentless engagement looks like 2 people having the idea to wake up to get on and post inspirational quotes all around the building. But I spent most of my time doing that. And then that transitioned. And I'm sorry, hold on one second. Let me give this dog a treat so that he can stop.
Okay.
He can stop barking.
Listen, he has something to say. Well, while
he developed this terrible habit during COVID where he would bark whenever I'm on a call because he knew that he would get a treat. And so he does it now. Yeah. Obnoxious. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Sometimes I can usually get through the calls without him realizing, but today wasn't one of those days. So spent some time developing that program in 2020. When was that? 2021, I would say. That transitioned into doing shepherding some of the DEI work, right? Because everybody, after George Floyd's murder, everybody focus shifted, right, into working on diversity, equity, and inclusion because what we as people of color knew, or Black people knew to be happening in this world for years, became more obvious and apparent to the world, right, after George Floyd's death. And so I started to shepherd some of the DEI work there. So did that. And then in February of last year, we had some leadership transition, and I was asked to consider stepping in as the interim executive director. And then after much prayer, decided that I would do that, and then went into the role permanently in August of last year.
Thank you for sharing.
I hope that kind of gives you.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But
how
different is it? How different is it being executive director than your previous role?
That is a great question. It is very different in the sense that I'm not as youth facing as I was before. So before, my office was like on the 2nd floor, which is an area we call Pride Hall. It's just a hangout spot for all the kids. And so all day I was interacting with young people. I was opening the bathroom every 5 minutes because you got to swipe in to get to the bathroom, right? And so I was just in it in terms of the young people. And so now that's a little bit different where my proximity is not as close. So I have to be more intentional about creating those types of opportunities and spaces. So I, serve lunch and serve dinner to the young people and, make sure I go down and play Uno.
Yeah.
Uno. I don't play Uno with them anymore because Uno.
Are they cheating? Are you cheating?
Cheating, making up their own rules. Uno is just not a good thing for me at the Cub. So, basketball, those kinds of things I'll stick to doing with them. But, Uno, I've given up on Uno with them. But so I make sure I remain intentional about that. The other thing that is different is I have a wider lens now in terms into what the larger agency needs are, and also what the needs of our staff are, right? When you are doing this work and you're youth facing, you sort of sometimes have tunnel vision, right? And so you're focused mainly on what is it that the young people need, right? And so when you are in a leadership role, you have to focus on all of it. You can't just say, what is it that the young people need and forsake what the staff need, because I need the staff to be whole and healthy to be able to serve the young people in the way that they need to be served, right? With joy, right? In ways that, are not, re-traumatizing or inflicting trauma on the young people who come to us seeking hope and healing, right? And so my approach now, even in how I look at the work, is more holistic, right? So I'm not just looking at what is it that the young person needs, is what is it that the staff folk need as well, so that they can be able to effectively support the needs of the young people. One of the things that I did learn, and this was before, I kind of had some sense of this before getting in the role. So at Covenant House, we talk about trauma, right? And being trauma informed, and the fact that all of the young people who have come through our doors have experienced some level of trauma, right? And have been impacted. So whether that is from abuse, neglect, all of the varying things that lead them to coming to Covenant House in the first place. We talk about community trauma. We also could talk about race-based trauma, right? It dawned on me. So it's kind of things that but you're never really intentional about in terms of your thought patterns. Is we talk about trauma from the perspective of youth experience, but every staff person that comes to that door have experienced trauma as well, right?
Yes.
Most of our staff are people of color, right? Most of our staff live in low income, impoverished neighborhoods. We pay a good salary, but we can't afford, right, to pay at the same rates that for-profit agencies might be, or companies might be able to pay at, right? And so when we talk about trauma in these types of spaces, right, and spaces that are serving young people who are in search of hope and healing, who have had trauma organized lives, right? We can't forsake the fact that the people that we're asking to provide these healing services also can be broken and in need of healing as well, right? And so it really positions me. So as questioning, like, what does it look like to be a pastor among all of the people in one space, right? And so when you are, like, even when you're talking about it in a church context, when you are a youth pastor, you're focused on the young people. You're a young adult pastor, you're focused on your demographic. Right? When you are a senior pastor, a senior leader, you have to consider the wellness of everybody, right, within the space. And in this way, it's the same thing, right? I can no longer be laser focused on the needs of the young people. I have to consider the needs of everybody. And also, that is what, while they don't call me pastor, that is my identity in the space. And so that is what being living out my pastoral identity looks like in that space.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I tell you, Todd got stuff to say. I learned.
It's so annoying right now. I am so embarrassed. I feel like I have like one of those kids that just, be falling out in the grocery store. And you're like, are you going lay there? Or are you going to get up? Like, what are we doing right now?
So I was like, and another thing, but you left, Todd wants to make sure that you get everything in. What strategies have you found most effective? You talked about, hope and healing a lot so far. So what strategies have you found most effective in fostering hope and healing among the youth that you serve? And since you brought up your staff, I'm going to expand that, right? Among the youth that you serve and the staff that you work with, and how do they align with your vision for empowering young people to reach their fullest potential?
Yeah, I mean, so we approach this work in a way that is from a strategic perspective, that is trauma informed. So I talked a little bit about what that looks like. Strength based. And basically that is highlighting just the strengths in people, right? And not looking at the deficits. And I think there's a TED Talk with this woman named Rita Pearson. She's an educator. She is she gives this example in her talk that that really just illustrates what it means to be strength-based in an excellent way. And I share that TED Talk usually at new hire trainings at Covenant House, New York. And basically she tells this story of, in her classroom, she gave a test. There were 10 questions on the test. And then there was a student who got 8 questions wrong on the test and 2 of the questions right. And she put a +2 on his paper and an F. And so he got, she didn't put the letter grade. She just put a +2 on his paper. And so the student got his test back and he was like, what is this? Like, this is the F. Like, why'd you put a +2? Like, it's an F. And so she's like, yeah, but you got 2 right? That means you're on a roll, right? And so that is what an example of being strength-based means. Yeah, we can say -8 because that is the reality of it, but but if we say +2, what we're doing is, and what she did in that moment was show the young person that they have capacity to do the work, right? Yes. If they got 2 right that one time, they can get 2 more right the next time that they take, right? The test. And so it is an approach that doesn't demoralize, right, a young person for not being exactly where they need to be or where you would want them to be, right, in that moment. But it is one that esteems them to do more and to be better, right? And so that is the approach that we take with our young people. It's like, we want to listen to them, right? That is strategically important, right? Listening. One thing we say is youth are the experts in their own lives. Yes. And believing that and ascribing to that kind of thought process requires that you have a high regard for young people. Yeah. If you have a low regard for young people, you will think that they're ignorant and they don't know anything. And so when we talk about them being an expert in their own lives, you would think that that's phooey, right? And also that they have nothing to teach you in terms of how you can help them. Yeah. But they are the experts. So we have to listen to them in order to help them because they know themselves, their journey better than we do. We only know what they allow us to know, what they allow us to know, what they share with us. And to that extent, that's how we, can support. But if they're not telling us about what's going on in their lives, if they're not telling us what it is, what their goals are, right? Because that's another strategy, like being very goal oriented with them, then we can't support them, right? And the other thing, so strategy too for me in this work is about mindset. And to me, it is always a privilege that a young person allows you enough access into their lives to be able to support them. Yes. We don't have a right to help anybody. It is our privilege to be able to do that. And so we approach it from that. So we listen. Youth voice is incorporated in everything that we do, whether it's from the programs that we are developing, and also in terms of, like, we have a new building. We moved in a couple of years ago in our new space at the corner of 41st and 10th. And that building, youth have voice in all of that. So they name the rooms, they pick the colors on the walls, the furniture, even the colors of the facade of the building, because it is their space and they're living there, right? And when we develop programs, they're involved in that process because it is for them. And so we need to know what they need so that we can develop something that will help get them to the place that they're aspiring to be. So we do that by providing like relentless engagement and support. It doesn't go away. It gets stronger, right? Day by day. And also modeling for young people a community of supporters that will never give up on them. Yeah. And I also share to staff, at New Hire, is that what we are aspiring to do is to create an alternative world that's different from the world that they were in prior to them walking through our doors. Right. Wow. Yeah. And so every young person that has come there has been failed by somebody or something. Been failed by an adult in your life, a family member. You've also been failed by many systems. Like we have a lot of young people who've been in the foster care system, young people who have been adopted and experiencing the system of broken adoption right now, right? Where someone adopts them and then kicks them out, right? And don't uphold the commitment that they made when they, vowed, right, to
Mhm.
care and protect that young person. And so our job is to look different from that. Right.
Yes.
Even if it's for, you know, the time that they're entering in our space, we have to look different from that. It is an alternative world. This Walter Brueggemann talks about the alternative world and the prophetic imagination, right? That is
Yeah.
what we are creating for our young people, so that they're able to develop hope, right, in themselves,
Mhm.
right, in humanity.
Yeah.
Right, because
Yeah.
you know they need to develop hope in humanity, um so that they can, you know, get the tools that they need to survive beyond the space. The thing that I will also add from a staff perspective, because you asked that as well, is some of the same things,
Mhm.
helping staff to, so even approaching, you know, um them from a strength-based perspective also, right? I mean, the business of the business is business, right? But we can do that in a way that shows love and care, unconditional love, absolute respect, you know, for our staff as well. But it's also important in the type of work that we do to show staff that they are appreciated for their work. This
Yeah.
is hard work, right? People,
Yes.
especially for direct care staff. When I say direct care staff, I mean folks who are on the front lines, who are the resident advisors, for example. And you shared earlier that you stayed at Covenant House
Mhm.
earlier on in your life, right? The resident advisors are the people that are on the floors. They're
Yeah.
dealing with 20, 30, 40 kids at a time, whether they're in program spaces, right? And everybody has a need, and everybody's need is the most important need at the time.
Yeah.
And you just came home from home dealing with your own family and whatever it is what that was. And now you got to deal with all these kids, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
In this space, and that's hard work. You're
Yeah.
seeing things that are hard to see sometimes,
Yes.
and so we work to show staff that they're appreciated. So we do a lot of employee well-being initiatives.
Mhm.
We have some amazing corporate partners that work with us. A group of us were able to go to the Knicks game last week because folks give tickets for our staff to go to different places. Some of our staff was actually able to go to the taping of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. And so if you're a
Oh,
real Housewives fan, you know that's like super, you know, high stakes and important to be able to do. And so, you know, we always want to create those opportunities for our staff as well, because we can't do this work with our young people without them.
yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I love this holistic approach that you utilize to care not only for the youth but for your staff as well. We're going to take a quick break. Just a quick break to do a little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions for Dr. Shack, please post them I'll be sure to get them to her. Well, let's take a quick break for a minute and give her a break. Amen. And time.
Oh my God, he just stopped barking. I'm like, really?
We'll be right back with you. Hey, y'all, thank you again for joining us for our conversation today as we kicked off Women's Her Story Month. I'm going to put this back up. We are celebrating all month long women making a difference. And so, again, we'll be talking with women who are championing the cause for reproductive justice, sustainability, youth advocacy, community development, empowerment for women and girls, and more. And so we want you to join us right here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for the month of March. I want you to follow us on Facebook. I don't know what happened to my little graphic, child. I think I deleted it. But Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I want you to follow us at Cara Solutions LLC. We're also at Inspired by Cara on Facebook and Instagram. We'd love for you to follow us there. We are also on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. We're inspired with you on all of those platforms. So if you want to catch up on any of our previous episodes, or if you just desire to take it with you, right? You don't have time to watch it and you want to walk with it, take it with you, you can follow us on those platforms there. If you're someone, or you are someone you know, is on a mission to create change while inspiring others to do the same, we want to hear from you. We want you to join us on a future episode. Join us in conversation on a future episode of Inspire. And so visit our website at www.getinspired.live to book your appearance today. I want to shout out some of the people that I saw come in. Requithia, I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Angie Harvey, Angelo Harvey, my dear sister, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. Pastor Joyce Radden, thank you for joining us this morning. I want to make sure I haven't missed anybody. I see y'all on Instagram, that girl woo. Dr. Lulu, thank you for joining. Hey, Phyllis, ouch. 126. Nice to see you on Instagram. I see y'all on Instagram. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. And yes, Clubhouse is amazing. Yes, it is. And I'm so grateful for all of the work that Dr. Shack is doing there. We're going to get back in the conversation with her. I'm going to bring her back. Listen, again, if you have any questions for Dr. Shack, please post them. And I'll be sure that we'll carve out a little bit of time for her to answer those questions. So welcome back, Dr. Shack. Thank you again for hanging out with me and the Inspire audience. And so now we want to hear a little bit. You talked so much and so eloquently about the wonderful work that you do at Covenant House as executive director. I want to get a little personal. Okay. That's a little personal, if that's okay. So in honor, we are celebrating Women's History Month here at Inspire. And so are there any historical or contemporary women who have been influential in shaping your approach to life and work? Who inspires you, Dr. Shack?
That is a good question. The first person, I think the main person that comes to mind from a contemporary perspective is Reverend Dr. Emma Jordan Simpson. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever met Reverend Emma?
Oh, yes.
So I love Reverend Emma. She so when I was discerning really just doing the work of youth ministry, and then also what it looked like to come into the nonprofit space full time, she was one of the model exemplars for that for me. She is a pastor, was working in the church space, also, was at that time was working with Children's Defense Fund, and then also did some stuff with Girls Inc. And so, as I was looking for, what would this even look like for me, right? She was the person that came up and like just kind of appeared, right? Because I hadn't even known fully about her work at that time until I was looking to, so I was actually going to go on and start a pastoral residency at Concord at the time when I started working on staff there. And so I was able to meet her around that time and engage her. And just her love for people just is absolutely relentless. Her love for children. I mean, I've never seen Reverend Emma fight, but I believe she'll fight somebody over some kids. And that is me. And so, I mean, I've seen her fight in different ways, right? From the advocacy perspective in terms of the work that she does around youth wholeness and well-being. But yeah, she is that person for me. I actually reached out to her last week because, even when I'm in spaces where I feel a little stuck sometimes in terms of where to go next and resource, I'll give her a call. And so, one of the things that we are experiencing at the Cub is we do have an influx of migrant youth coming into the space right now. A majority of those young people are from different countries in West Africa, and they are primarily French speaking. And so I'm like, oh my God, I need somebody to come, who is French speaking to help work with the youth. But one of the things that I noticed about those young people are that they're very focused on their faith. and most of them are Muslim youth. And so we've, of course, created spaces for them to practice their faith in ways that are familiar and make sense to them. But I'm like, I need to find an imam to come and be on site and create space. And Reverend Emma was the first person that I called, like, hey, can you help me with this? And she did. And we have an imam that, you know, is going to be coming to create space for the young people at the site. So she's just all the things for in me and in terms of, you know, what I look to and aspire to be in this work.
Wonderful, wonderful. So with all of what you do, how do you prioritize self-care and mental well-being? And what advice would you offer to those striving also to maintain this healthy balance or healthy harmony, right, between their personal and professional lives?
So I would say, so first of all, my advice would be better than my practice. Because I can, in that sense, I could tell you better than I can show you because I'm not that great at it, to be honest. I am still trying to develop ways to embed self-care as a daily routine. It is hard to do so. But I am also at the same time trying to force myself to be intentional around taking time, you know, for myself, also for my family. You know, I'm recently married. And so, you know, I want that to still be the case. Right. So I'm trying to get more intentional about what that looks like. And so one of the things that I have done is, for the most part, I'm like at a 95% with it right now, which is pretty good for me. I don't bring work home. Right. And so, and even if there's a day where I'm working from home, because there's that nuance, like after the work day, I try not to do work. So if I'm at the site, I try to leave my bag in the car and I'm not bringing anything in. So I try to finish everything before I get into the house. So it's been some ebbs and flows, but I think I've been doing pretty okay with that. And then also just taking time. Like I have a morning routine where I get up, I walk the dogs, I'll have some tea or some coffee, and then I'll watch one of my shows while I'm having tea and coffee, like in the morning. Whether it's Real Housewives or Chicago PD or one of those. But I make sure I kind of keep with that daily routine because I find that if I don't do it, I'm off my square. And so those are a couple of things that I do. But when I say my advice is better than my practice, like I encourage people all the time to take time for themselves and to, you know, because it is important. But I haven't mastered it quite yet.
Yeah. Well, you know, at least you're doing something.
Yeah, I'm trying.
And I want to meet the person that has mastered that. I really do.
That is just, yeah. I mean, I wonder if I believe there are some people out there that have done it, especially after COVID. I think people got better with it after COVID. And also I think that it became okay for people to do after COVID. Right. I don't know who the person is, but I saw something out there about a nap ministry. Like there's a whole ministry out there for folks who want to take naps. Right. And so it's like, I think culturally now it's like people need to survive. We saw a lot of death during COVID. And so it's like people need to survive. And so we support anything that a person needs to be able to, you know, help them with that.
Yes. So quickly back to Covenant House. In what ways do you envision Covenant House New York's programs and initiatives evolving in the coming years?
Yeah. So, as you know, so the video that you showed earlier was a video of our sleep out that was done in November for National Homeless Youth Awareness Month. And part of that is done in conjunction with Covenant House International, right? And so we are a federation of houses that support the needs of homeless and young people across the United States, Latin America, and Canada, right? And so, in answering this question, I'm answering it for Covenant House New York, but also it is a federation-wide goal of ours for all of our houses to work to end youth homelessness as we know it today, right?
Yeah.
And so, whenever somebody says, you're going to end youth homelessness, it's like, really, like, what is that? How do you even do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is a way to do that. So first of all, there's enough resource in this world to go around for everybody, right?
Yes,
and so if we kind of just shift, right, our perspective on the fact that there needs to be even this class system where there's a high, middle, low class or no class, right? And focus on the distribution of wealth in a way that everybody gets what they need to survive, there would not even be a situation of youth homelessness, right? But as it is, our goal is really to end youth homelessness as we know it. And how we want to get there, one of the ways is really focusing on and investing in permanent housing solutions, right? And so, we do a lot of advocacy work. We do help to meet the immediate needs of young people who are experiencing homelessness. We do have, and this is at all of our sites, but also in New York City, we have, some permanent supportive housing solutions and programs for young people. So as they work through our continuum of being in the crisis shelter and more in our longer term transitional living programs, we can help to get them into an apartment. But holistically, the resource for permanent housing and affordable for youth housing, right? Because, all right, so we're in New York. I can't afford to live in New York. Like, so a young person that is, working or just starting out working, maybe minimum wage, maybe a little bit above minimum wage, it's not going to be able to afford an apartment in the city. And because of how things are changing, they're not even going to be able to afford something in some of the outer boroughs. Pretty soon, right? And so we have to look at what does affordable for youth housing look like. And also for Covenant House, we're looking at ways where we can develop permanent housing spaces for young people who go through our continuum so that we are really creating a cycle where they're coming out of homelessness to independence and that be on a permanent basis. So I am really excited about that piece of the work. You say over the next few years, I don't know how long it's going to take us to get there. We're trying, and some of our sites, we do have models that have already been implemented. But that is something that I'm really looking forward to and excited about. Us doing more in the permanent housing space.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. How can we support you and support Covenant House?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that. So you can go to our website, ny.covenanthouse.org. And you can click that donate button and make a gift to Covenant House. 40% of our budget at Covenant House New York comes from individual donors and some foundational giving, but mostly individual donors like those of you who are watching who have supported our work. And so we cannot do the work or continue to do the work without that support. So definitely please consider going to ny.covenanthouse.org and making a donation to support our work. And then also on the website, there is a link for how you can help. It talks about some volunteer services and things that we need from that perspective. And so, connect with the folks. There's the contact information is on the website. So connect with the folks in our volunteer services department. Because a lot of the work, we do a lot of work around youth development, education, employment. Some of that stuff is done with our volunteers. You mentioned Tasha being on, so Tasha's with BIV. Yes. And BIV is one of our our major program partners. They were one of the program partners that stayed with us throughout COVID because they were able to do a virtual setup. And then the programming that comes through our volunteers is just amazing. And it helps us because we can't hire, 500 people, right, to do this work. So our volunteers really help to support that. So definitely go to our website, click on the link for how you can get involved, consider donating, consider volunteering with us. Also, if you are a person who is bilingual and you speak French or speak Spanish, definitely reach out to our volunteer department. Most of the young people that are in our crisis shelter right now do not speak English. So that is, it is a barrier in some instances, but it's a great need of ours for translators. Even if it's translating some of our documents and flyers and things of that nature, we could definitely use that support.
Wonderful, wonderful. That link has been posted in the chat and all across social media. So please go ahead, click on that, and get involved in support of Covenant House, New York. Dr. Shaq, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And amazing, this dog he's actually laying in the bed right now. He did all of that. He did all of that. He done barked himself to sleep.
He added what he wanted to add, and
I was like, really?
Well, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for spending this time with me and the Inspire audience. We are just so grateful for you and all the work that you have done and the work that you are currently doing and the work that you will do, not only at Covenant House, but in community as well. And we are so grateful for you. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we listen, I'm going to have you back at some point. I
got you.
Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the week. Bye-bye. Well, y'all, this has been such a great conversation. I'm so excited about all of the work that Covenant House New York is doing. Thank you to each and every one of you who joined us today. They're telling you she's still in the background, so they're telling you to keep up the great work, Dr. Shaq. Tasha Michelle says, we love working with Covenant House. It blesses us more than they know. Listen, there is so many. Dr. Shaq is the woman. Thank you for all you do. Cove Love. Listen, they love you, Dr. Shaq, and we love you too. Thank you again, all of you who have joined us on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and hanging out with us also on Instagram. I see y'all over there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You got to shout out Reverend Emma, shout out Reverend Emma again, since Pastor Shaq brought her up. And also, who did the NAP ministry? Reverend Dion. Yes. The NAP ministry advocate. Thank you for joining us. Again, we will be here all month long, celebrating women who are making a difference, every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern during Women's Her Story Month. Again, if you have a product or a service, a woman-owned business, I want to be able to promote you. So send me your stuff. If you have a shirt, I'll wear it. If you got a cup, I'll drink out of it. If you have a service or a book, Danny, who will be with us next month, has a book that recently came out. And so if you have a book, listen, I want to support you. I want to promote you for free for the month of August. And so send it to me. Let me create this banner and put my email up. So it's going to be sue@getinspired.live. Let me put it up on the screen for you. So if you want more information about having your product or service, your book, whatever it is, showcase, spotlighted, promoted here on Inspire, send me an email today, sue@getinspired.live. We have come to the end of our show today. Thanks again for joining us. Make sure that you join us next week, Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until then, I want you to stay lifted. I want you to stay motivated. And most of all, I want you to stay inspired. God bless you. I'll see you next week.